Good afternoon. This is Larry Peters. I'm a retired private investigator out of Winchester, Virginia. I have completed this book, which is hopefully to be used as a guide for those people who haven't really been out in the field to find out what is really going on there. I got into this by accident uh, back in June of 1981 uh, when I was in Towson, Maryland, as an investigator. I had my own company there, and I ran across a guy named Willard McIntyre, who was into Bigfoot. He was running all over the country to do it, and he invited me along to Rome, Ohio, to find out what was going on out there. And even though I was pessimistic about what had actually was going on out there, Willard was confident that I would be able to get some photographs, and I was going to be going out there as the photographer. Consequently, we wound up going out there in the middle of June. It was fairly warm out at that time. And from the information that was provided, Mickey Lambert and his family was being under siege by these 8 and 10 and 14-foot high hairy creatures that were coming around his house, killing his ducks and his chickens and attacking his horse. So Willard and Dennis Politsky made a decision, and what they would do was to try to kill one of these. And Willard said to me that he had a brigadier general with a helicopter in the Army that if we could get one on the ground, he would swoop in and take it away. Well, to me, at that, I thought that was just totally a farce. But I went along and we went to Rome, Ohio. And what I've done with the foregoing photographs and explanations is out of the book, but it's not the entire book. And if anyone is interested in the book, you can reach me at lavapet051@gmail.com or my phone number at 540-303-1684. As I indicated, this is a brief scenario of the contents of the book with a concentration on the Bigfoot section, and it is mostly nonfiction. I'm going to leave that there for you to read for about 30 seconds. I'll let you read that for 30 seconds. I don't want to read it to you. On Friday night, uh, after dark, this is on Saturday night after dark. We got there on Friday. and didn't get to go down until Saturday morning. And as we were waiting for it to get dark, it got dark, and all of a sudden we started seeing down along near the river and the edge of the woods where the eyes were popping up. So Mickey and Cliff had high-powered rifles. Willard and Dennis didn't have a weapon at all. And I had my cameras. I had a Pentax 1000 with 400 ASA color film and a 2x2 camera that had a high burst flash to reach out. If you can, on this picture, there's an orange dot in the middle of the picture. That orange dot was actually on the lens of my camera, which I did not realize, and I did not see it on the viewfinder, but it stayed with me throughout this shooting in Rome, Ohio. After I got back to Maryland and was using the camera for my everyday shooting of vehicles and investigations, the dot was no longer there. But what this picture represents, off to the left of the orange dot, there's two sets of eyes that they are shooting at, and over in the upper right-hand corner, there is a orange or red glowing eyes there. Now, when you look at these things and you photograph them, it looks like just one dot, but in fact, there are two dots on each one of those examples. Later on, well, in the last year or two, I got the negatives out and I was blowing them up because I had the equipment to enlarge the 35 millimeter negatives from the dots to see if I could get some type of a form on the dots. And basically what I received was matter. It's just nothing but matter. There's nothing physical behind the dot. This is another one, which was, I blew that up as far as I could take it, and there simply wasn't any physical being behind the red eyes. This reminded me of a hologram, and so I gave this information here on the three different types of holograms, which is reflection, transmission, and hybrid. This was off of one of the closer shots that I took, and I was able to get that. I blew it up, and I got some form of something creature on the left side. The flash itself blinded it out, but the strange thing of all, on the right side, there is a small miniature humanoid type thing that appears to be on the shoulder of the creature. This is another shot where I tried to get the some type of physical, and there was nothing but energy there. This is a photograph from the field with the orange dot. Off to the left, far left, you'll see a set of eyes, and closer to the dot at about what would say 10:30, there's a dot there. In this photograph, there are four different sets of eyes off to the right top. And if you notice at the lower left, there is a set of eyes, and just slightly to the left and above the orange dot, there is a set of eyes there. The unfortunate thing is, I wasn't able to get any physical being. In the Night Siege, Mickey Lambert described a creature that was so big that it almost reached the top of the cross on his deer butchering stand or cow butchering stand. If you look out through the woods to the left of the poles is the woods where everything was going on, and to the far left of that would be the river. The interesting thing about that is the color of this negative. And as we go through the negatives, you'll be able to see the same thing on other negatives, where some of them are orange or blue and some are natural. Those negatives, which was orange, came out as a black and white picture or negative, and they were actually attached to the color negatives. This is the plowed field where they had made arrangements to put the rabbits in the field tied to milk crates. And Mickey had agreed to plow the field so there wouldn't be any footprints made by anybody when they put the crates down. And the way that was done is up here in the grass. When they come down, they walk through the grass down, and where they installed the milk cages with the rabbits attached to them. This is a natural photograph here showing the woods and the horse barn or the machine barn, and then the horse barn is off to the right. These are footprints in the plowed field. These footprints were discovered on Saturday morning. And they were evidently, the creatures came in and took the rabbit at some point after we left there around 3:00 in the morning. That's the machine shop. This is Mickey Lambert's house, and they were actually up on that roof shooting down toward the woods as these creatures were advancing on their house. If you notice the discoloration, this negative was black and white. This negative was in color, both on the same film. If you look between the horse barn and the grapevine, straight down and to the left is the river. The shooting and everything was taking place from that point over to the right, which is in front of the grapevine. This is the river. If you'll notice the discoloration of the landscape and the trees, this is not natural. This is, and also the river itself was muddy, and this is Mickey and Willard and Cliff searching for footprints along the edge of the river. This is Willard McIntyre holding the two dead rabbits by the cage. These are footprints left in the plowed field, and some of these will be measured later on to give you a more exact. This one is unusual because it appears that whatever was standing there, you have the toes to the left, heel to the right, and then on the print right beside it, you've got the toes in the front and the heel to the rear, like it's standing there with both feet on the ground. This was unusual because of the depth of when the creature stepped on that plowed field. That's how far he mashed it down. And off to the left, you'll also see a second area where the uh, the plowed ground was pushed down. This is another section of that same footprint in the plowed ground. This was an unusual print in the plowed ground, where you have the heel to the left and the toes to the right, and it appears that from the orange dot to the left of the screen, that appears to be some type of a sliding mark, as opposed to the toes and stuff to the right of the orange dot. This is another shows that this is in the field, and there is a deep footprint, as Dennis is pointing out, but right under Dennis's arm, there is a gouge mark, which looks like two claws. And if you look in the start of the claws, there appears to be knuckles, some type of knuckles. This is Mickey Lambert. He is searching at the entrance to the circle that was the area where I shot at the creature. And the he was looking for the different vegetation that was pushed down and things of that nature. This is another photograph in the field, the footprint. And these footprints were measured by Mickey. This is in the circle, and the measurements on a footprint that was in the circle. This is in the field. He went back and measured, and I tried to photograph him as he went, and you can see that it looks like it's about 22 inches long. And this one was 11 inches long. This is the milk crate that the rabbit was tied to. Whatever took the rabbit pulled the 1,200-pound test parachute line in half. It was like it exploded. Later on, Dennis had told me that he took this string to the Ohio State Police lab, which was close by his home, and they said that the rope had never been cut. It was not chewed through. It was simply exploded from pressure being pulled apart. This is Johnson Road, where my shooting took place. This is in the circle, which you'll see later on. And this is Dennis holding a large sapling, which has been basically stripped of its bark. And you can actually see the bark hanging down. And there is no creature, including bears or any deer or anything, that would pull this apart the way it was. This is the same sapling, and this shows how the sapling was actually twisted off the rest of the stem. This was in the circle. This is Willard and Dennis examining another branch that had been twisted off and laid on Johnson Road. This is Dennis is holding a branch which has been broken off about chest high to him in the circle. If you'll notice off to the right of the circle, the tree over there has a lot of debris around it, like something has been scraping on that tree. The only thing about that is that tree was a solid tree and it was alive. At the circle, this is the vegetation facing north where this creature would have come from. And if you'll notice, there are several broken branches off these saplings where something of large size has in fact passed through there. This is the circle. The neat thing about the circle is the vegetation had been stripped down to small particles in general. There was, of course, there's other stuff there, but for the majority, it was stripped down. This is another sapling. If you notice, to the sapling has been stripped and it's been twisted. I mean, it's been virtually twisted, with the other part of it to the right of the main part of the sapling where it was twisted. This is not natural in any circumstance. This was a footprint in the field. Notice how deep. And we're back to the circle. And the different saplings, which you can see has been snapped off. Also, you might see that there's no grass growing in this circle. There's greenery all around the circle, but in the actual circle itself, there's nothing growing. On Sunday morning, when we left the area at Rome, we took the remaining rabbit and we hung it up in a tree, to the point that no animal could take that rabbit that was in those particular woods. A bear could have probably done it, but there was enough there that we could we felt fairly confident. We came back a week later and to check on the rabbit, and I did not photograph the remainder of the rabbit, but something, the rabbit was still hanging there the way it was, but something had stripped the rabbit like razor blades, going down through the rabbit, just cutting it in every possible slice. And the circle, in 1 week's time, the circle was dead. There was no more life in the circle that I could feel. And the vegetation in 1 week had already grown up, and there was grass growing in the middle of the circle in just 1 week. Now, this orbs is something that I'll be discussing later on in another issue, but when you look at the face on the following page, it is almost unbelievable. And unbeknownst to me, at that time, there was the orange spot on the lens. And I discovered the orange spot on the lens of my camera after I was examining the negatives with a processor. I didn't pay any attention to the negatives until 2023 when I decided to write a book about my experience. This is the final results of the orange dot that was on the lens of my camera. And it shocked me, but this is what we're dealing with on a creature. And at some other point, we'll get into more detail about their capabilities. I blew this up to show on PowerPoint how the eyes and the nose and the mouth are shown there. And when you look at the pictures, and when you can pick out a set of eyes, a nose, and a mouth, emulating from a flash of a set of red eyes in a distant field in Ohio, you have to wonder what else is out there we've yet to locate. One thing that has never been attempted on these creatures are lasers and animal whistles. We have to think out of the box. And that will conclude this information.